People's Initiative on Article 17, Section 1 of the Constitution stoked fears of the unknown among our citizens. Any proposal to amend or revise the Constitution must identify the provisions being changed, containing their full text, but most importantly, must be forthcoming on the impact, effect, and true intention behind the proposed changes. Only then can they be presented for approval to the people, our sovereign, from whom all powers emanate. The proposal subject of the People's Initiative could have led, or could lead, rather, to a constitutional crisis, destabilizing our bicameralism and upsetting the systems of checks and balances. While the Senate is vehemently opposed to a dilution of its participation in the task of reviewing the Constitution, we exercised all restraint because in any conflict, it is always the people who stand to suffer the most. For this reason, I, together with the leadership, Senate President Pro Temp Loren Legarda, met with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and the leadership of the House of Representatives on January 11 before Divan de Honor in order to raise concerns on the proposed amendment contained in the People's Initiative. The President agreed with us that the proposal was too divisive and asked the Senate to instead take the lead in reviewing the economic provisions of the Constitution. In this way, we can preserve our bicameral nature of legislation. While the Constitution must be reviewed in keeping with the demands of the present and possibilities of the future, we believe that we must first exhaust all avenues open to us through policy making and legislation. That is precisely what the Senate did when we enacted amendments to the Public Services Act and liberalized many industries to attract foreign investments, encourage competition, and improve the delivery of basic services to our countrymen. The Senate stands firm behind the Public Services Act as a landmark piece of legislation that reforms our economic landscape. We, however, and I'd like to repeat, we, however, recognize that the case assailing the Constitution of Republic Act number 11659 or the amendments to the Public Services Act is currently pending before the Supreme Court. As such, the Senate commits that it will work with the House of Representatives to remove all doubts on the constitutionality of the law by ensuring that the liberalized policies contained in the Public Services Act can be implemented and relied on by investors as an enduring policy. It is only in this respect the Senate can agree to modify the Constitution. The framers of the Constitution deliberately ensured that modifying it will be an arduous process, never to be taken lightly. We wish to assure the people that in reviewing the economic provisions of the Constitution, we will be circumspect. We are guided by the knowledge that our sovereign is watching, and that the work we should do represents no interest other than the people's interest. So that is my statement, ladies and gentlemen, of our friends in the media and the people watching us in live in the TV and radio as well as social media. Yes, my dear.
Sir, you said that President Marcos parang commanded you that Senate will take the lead in terms of amending the Constitution. But mas gusto nyo policy making, so Public Services Act. But by any chance, does that mean, sir, that you will be, the Senate is more open to shorter change this time around since may order na kayo from the President?
Ganito kasi yan, the complaints of some of the investors the question first asked is, do we need to amend the Constitution, right? So now, we feel in the Senate that after passing the Public Services Act, hindi na po kailangan amendahan yung ating provision when it comes to economic amendments. Unfortunately, may pending case sa Supreme Court, marami pong nag-file. So anong nangyayari daw, maraming natatakot pumasok sa bansa dahil maski na meron na po tayong batas, wala pong TRO, but what if after 1 or 2 years, the Supreme Court declares it unconstitutional? And once the Supreme Court declares it unconstitutional, paano daw nila babalik sa 60-40 yung kanilang mga investments? So, may rason. No? May mga mabibigat din na rason. And that's why we are open with the leadership of the Senate. We had several meetings with the senators after. We are open to discussions on the amendment of the Constitution on these particular provisions. But we are going to do it separately, voting separately. And that is why we have prepared a resolution now signed by myself, Senator Lauren Legarda, and Senator Sani Angara on the economic provisions, amendments of the economic provisions of the Constitution. So with this, we had asked the majority members had asked Senator Sani Angara to lead a subcommittee on the Committee on Constitutional Amendments to tackle this particular issue. We chose Senator Sani Angara kasi kailangan talaga natin dito ay abogado. So, with due respect, hindi ko pa nakakausap si Senator Robin Padilla. He's still abroad. But when he comes back, kakausapin po namin siya at magre-request po kami na kung pwede, para dito sa usapin na ito, we will ask a creation of a subcommittee for this purpose. So, just to make a long story short, we had a meeting, the chain of events that had happened. So, nakipag-meeting po ako kay Presidente nung Tuesday. And I raised the alarm about the People's Initiative. He was very gracious enough to meet with me, and we discussed how we can diffuse the situation. In fairness to the President, hindi niya po alam yung People's Initiative language was to diminish the powers of the Senate. And after that, he asked me to meet with the Speaker. We met with the Speaker. I met with him on Tuesday evening, after which we had the lively and vigorous debate on the issue. And we all decided to meet with the President once again at 3 p.m. in Malacanang last Thursday. In that meeting, we were there early, so we met together with Senator Lauren Legarda. Kasama po namin si Congressman Sandro Marcos, Sap Anton Lagdameo, and the Speaker and myself. In that meeting, we discussed the scenarios. And of course, I defended the position of the Senate na talagang malabo yan kasi as far as we're concerned, their plan is unconstitutional because we are a bicameral system of government. Kaya, nung pagkita po natin kay Presidente, we decided, the President, first of all, and I'd like to thank the President for his comment that the PI is too divisive, and he even mentioned news items from the major networks that he watched the night before. At sabi, nagkakagulo na, bakit nagkakaganyan, may bayaran, and he even said na, and I thank the President for this, because he even said na, dati ako senador. Bilang dating senador, hindi din ako papayag na ma-undermine o ma-diminish ang kapangyarihan ng Senado sa pagdating ng usaping bicameralism or bicameral form of government. So maganda po ang direksyon ng Pangulo. And ang sabi niya sa akin at kay Speaker, sabi niya, why doesn't the Senate take the lead in the discussions of the economic provisions, and then you approve your version, which the House can adopt. So that was the position of the President. Para hindi na tayo maglalagay pa kung ano-ano pang mga amendments na sa tingin natin ay magagalit ang taong bayan. So, that was quite clear in the meeting, and that's why in the Van de Honor, medyo smiling na po kami ng Speaker of the House at ang Presidente ng Senado, because we were able to resolve that very big issue. That night, nag-meeting po kami with the senators. We had about 14 senators that met that night, and we discussed the possibilities. Nakuha ko naman po yung full support ng majority members of the Senate. We were also there. We also had a member of the minority there, Senator Risa Ontiveros. And of course, we said to her that we know their position, we will respect their position, but I'm being transparent. As the Senate President, I want to be transparent that these discussions will be taking place once the Senate resumes on January 22.
Sorry, isa pa. Sir, kasi ever since naman, di ba, divided yung Senate in terms of Chacha. And parang kayo mismo nagsabi dati, sir, na pag pinush yan, hindi talaga yan mananalo dito sa Senate. But since kayo mismo, sir, yung may reso na, did you get the support of the 14 senators para pumasa po yung economic provisions, Chacha?
We got the support of all the senators that were there, except, of course, for the minority. The minority is non-committal. They have to see the amendments first. They want to participate in discussions and the debates. I'm talking about Senator Risa. She was the one who said na hindi, wala muna siyang may dadagdag. Although she was happy that the discussions will be moving away from the plan of the PI na ikapon kami. Happy po silang lahat na ang sinabi ng Pangulo na dapat dito na tayo sa ganitong klaseng proseso. Hindi po yung sa gusto ng People's Initiative na yan, na EDSA Puera, na gusto nilang ikapon ang Senado at magkakaroon po ng mga posibleng amendments na hindi po natin makokontrol bilang Senado. Because you have to remember that the gist of this proposal ay pagdating po ng isang constituent assembly, which can be called by either one, hindi joint. Either one can call for this. Ay 3/4 vote lamang ang kailangan. So I did a simple computation. Kung 300 congressman yun at 24 senators, that's 324. Technically, 3/4 vote is only 243. So maski na po mag-walk out po tayo, maski na po absent kami, they can amend the Constitution, and we can no longer protect the people's interest in the system of checks and balances that we are, which is enshrined by the Constitution through a bicameral form of government. So
you need 16, but clearly you only have 13 for now.
no, we need a total of 18 votes when it comes to amending, kasi 2/3 ang 16, 3/4 is 18.
Sir, pumanap po si Speaker na mas center lang po sa economic provisions. Yung any amendment.
Well, ang binabanggit niya palagi, dyan lang naman siya gustong mag-amend dahil sa economic provisions. According to him, officially in front of me. I don't want to put any words in the Speaker's mouth. I would rather that you ask the Speaker himself on his position on this matter.
Was it clear na he's speaking for the 300 members of the House of Representatives during their meeting?
Nandun din naman si Sandro. So Sandro is a senior deputy majority floor leader. And I believe the message was loud and clear. I hope that the message was loud and clear.
Sir,
So,
SP, isundan ko lang yung kay Marlon. During that meeting, was there a commitment given by Speaker Romualdez na they will not support in any other way yung PI? Because according to Pirma, they are working on this, on the PI, in coordination with the Congress.
I no longer want to fight with my colleagues in Congress. 1 week po ako hindi nakakatulog. Kaya hindi rin ako nakakasagot sa inyo dahil may inaayos po tayong gusot, and we were able to get consensus from everyone, including the President. I think those questions about the Speaker should be asked to the Speaker.
Was there a how can you guard the eventual proposal of other members of, for example, Senate with respect to, kasi sabi niyo nga po economic provision lang, pero syempre independent minded naman ng mga senators, and some really want some political amendments.
Well, ang mangyayari dyan, my dear colleagues, when discussions on, for example, if you see the resolution that we will file today, nakapirma na kaming tatlo, if you see the resolution that we file today, it's limited to yung amendments to public services, as well as education, and as well as advertising. We got the guide from the President. I hope that the President will not be upset if I share this information. Pero si President mismo ayaw niya ng lupa na ibigay sa foreigners. Siya mismo nagsabi, malabo yun. He said that, and I quote the President, this will give us problems in our housing program. It will increase tax rates and it will increase prices of land in the Philippines. And he even cited some countries kung saan na may foreign ownership na yung mga mismong locals ay hindi na po nakaka-afford ng lupa doon at lumalabas na. Kaya na nga nagkakaroon ng Asian hate dahil may mga areas like Vancouver, Toronto, in Canada, wherein a lot of Chinese, Hong Kong nationals pumunta doon, binili lahat ng property. Yung mga Canadians na original na lumalabas na, hindi na nila ma-afford yung lupa tsaka apartments doon sa mga lugar na yun. So we like to thank the President for that, because we are one in the Senate also not to agree on foreign land ownership. So maganda, meron po siyang direksyon na sinabi, keep away land from ownership.
Sir,
And even media, sabi niya, ayaw din niya ng media kasi kung may foreign ownership of media, baka mag-influence peddling pa yan dito on certain agendas. So ayaw din yan po yun. So we're limiting it, as far as the Senate is concerned, that Thursday night discussion, we're limiting it to the scope of the Public Services Act, education, because we feel, lahat po kami naniniwala, na bakit hindi makapasok ang Harvard dito, ang Yale, ang Stanford. Pwede naman sila mag-set up po ng eskwelahan dito. They do it in Singapore, they do it in other countries. So we should allow them para ang tumaas naman ang dekalidad ng ating edukasyon. And of course, we're limiting it to these three right now.
Sir, two more questions lang,
Yeah po.
sir.
Tapusin ko na lang si Chair and then-
sorry, Marlon, sandali.
Right.
Sir, so pumayag doon si Speaker na in the first place, aware si Speaker na merong ganitong resolution, and he agreed na at the end of the day, they will just vote according to your version, ganun po.
That was the agreement that we had made in Malacanang on the 11th of January at 4 p.m.
Sir, last question.
So yan yung agreement po namin, and I hope all parties will agree, and we thank the President for that, because ang totoo dyan talaga magkakaroon ng constitutional crisis. Hindi po talaga papayag. Alam mo, lahat ng mga kasamahan ko, atat na umatake. At sabi ko sa kanila, pag lumaban tayo, there's a point of no return. Kasi kung magkakainitan ng dugo ang House and Senate, paano natin may papasa yung mga batas natin? Kung ayaw mo makipag-usap sa congressman, how do we do the BICAMs, the bicameral conferences? How do we do our LEDAC? Magkakagulo, masyado mainit. So, ang talo dyan ang taong bayan. So, I had to keep a cooler head, and even if it was very difficult for me not to say anything about this issue, we wanted to find a win-win solution that would limit the impact in terms of a constitutional crisis with both houses of Congress.
Sir, one last question from my end. Is this going to be a priority? Is it going to be prioritized?
It will be a priority by the Senate as far as we're concerned. Only on economic provisions, napakaklaro yan. We will have public hearings, and in these public hearings, we will have debates. And as you said, kung meron man propose ng controversial dito sa Senado, term limits or removal of term limits or change of government, I'm sure the members of the committee, the subcommittee, or kung gusto ng ating mga kababayan, gawin natin na committee on the whole to be presided by myself and Senator Angara, we can put it on a vote. And obviously, 18 votes at each time. Sa committee level, para paglabas na committee report, that was voted upon by 3/4 of the members, yung final committee report, and then we'll put it in plenary and make a vote on it again for 18 votes or for 3/4 vote. Well, I cannot predict what my colleagues would be saying, but I think the simpler the amendment, the easier to get 18 votes from my colleagues.
Sir,
Was there any discussion on political reforms, particularly term limits, lifting of term limits, and then change of...
Wala naman. Wala naman. Kasama ni Pangulo, wala naman.
And by filing this resolution, SP, is it that an admission na may defect, may constitutional defect, yung amendment sa PSP?
Because my eyes were open because we had a meeting with Frederick Go, yung kanyang officer or the presidential assistant for his economic team. And we spoke also to several other businessmen. Natatakot sila. Kasi kaya nga maraming pledges, hindi pa natutuloy po yung pledges is because whenever they speak to their legal team here, yung mga Filipino lawyers, meron pang pending sa Supreme Court. So, sayang naman, no, napakasayang. Kung 1.1 trillion nga ang pledges ng mga dayuhan na mag-set up ng mga businesses dito, bakit naman natin sila atsapuera? Ay pupunta lamang yan sa Vietnam, pupunta lamang yan sa Thailand, sa iba't ibang bansa, kawawa naman ang Pilipinas. So, we listen to the pulse of the public and also the business sector para sa ganun ay makapasok talaga at magkaroon ng legacy and legacy projects and investments in the country.
Sir?
It is not, I'd like to say that iba kasi yung panahon nun, iba yung panahon na yun. I think when we passed the 1987 Constitution, it was not defective because at that time, all countries at that time were looking inward, di ba? Nationalistic ang tendency noon, nung 1980s. Ngayon po, globalized na yung economy natin. And by doing this, definitely erases all doubts na gusto po natin ng foreign investments na pumasok sa ating bansa.
And sir, with this resolution, malilimit lang sa talaga do sa education, economic, and wala na yung possibility na yung term extension. Kasi yun yung usual na inaano nila.
Suicide yun para sa amin. No one, wala, vehement ang objection ng mga kasama ko on this topic. So, we limit it to economic, as what we promised the President. We limit it to economic provisions, and we'll be discussing only economic provisions on this particular Senate resolution.
And that hopefully will put to rest the PI, the People's Initiative efforts sa ground.
Well, sana po. Sana po yan ang mangyari. Yan ang kagustuhan din ng Pangulo. So, of course, the question now will be with our colleagues in the House of Representatives.
Sir, sabi ang initially po sir, 'di ba, re-reviewin po ng subcommittee ang economic provisions ng Constitution. And then eventually magko-convert po ba ang Congress to Constituent Assembly kasi dinidiscuss niyo na po yung 18 votes which
Hindi
is
na.
2/3 na
Dito na
requirement.
lang kami boboto. Yan ang usapin namin sa Malacanang. We will be here, we will pass this, 18 votes dito, and we will submit it to the House.
Yung
And then
kagaya po,
if they, ang gusto ng ating Pangulo ay adapt na lang po ng House of Representatives. Na kung hindi po i-adapt ng House of Representatives, magkaka-impasse po tayo.
so same route sir ng pinagdaanan po ng Public Services Act.
It is it will be like a bill, but 3/4 vote. We will deliver 3/4 vote of the Senate.
Yes, sir. And then, sir, dun sa meeting po, nag-agree, sir, si Speaker na, nag-agree po dito si Speaker Romualdez. Sir, kasi sir, ang sabi ni Senator Amy Marcos kahapon, it seems na siya yung nasa likod ng People's Initiative kasi yung mga directives nanggagaling sa mga staff niya. So sir, dun po ba una sir, may admission po ba na siya yung nasa likod ng People's Initiative, and after that meeting, clear po ba na wala na, matitigil na tong mga pag-ikot-ikot po para sa pirma?
You know what will happen if I answer that, di ba? Magkakagera kami ng house. So, I suggest that you ask sino yung counterpart mo sa house? Ano yun pa?
Si Isa sir.
Si Cesar. Tanong mo lang, si Cesar na mag...
SP, di ba, under the Constitution, very specific yung mode altering the Constitution. Correct me if I'm wrong, yun nga, yung sinasabi ni Constitutional Assembly, yung CONCON, and then yung PI. So, by doing that, sir, kung parang same lang siya sa legislative yung process ng pagpasa ng isang bagay.
It's just the name. Actually, parang... it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a name, which is Constituent Assembly. Even Senator Frank Drilon, the former Senate President, the former Minority Leader, had given this proposal na it can be done that way. We don't have to meet in one place to come up with a Constituent Assembly. As far as they're concerned, and this was also discussed in one of the committee hearings by, I think, Father Bernas and some other constitutionalists, that it can be done that way. So we can meet here, pass the resolution, 3/4 vote. They can meet there, pass the resolution as well, 3/4 vote. Pero kung magkaiba, yan ang problema, hindi magkaka-impasse, hindi po mapapasa yung constitutional reform. But if they adopt the Senate version, then wala tayong problema. 3/4 vote of both houses. So we feel we maintain that's the best way, that's the best mode, that is the path of least resistance in terms of debates and I'd say heated debates and possible difficult scenarios that may happen if we meet together. So, pumapayag din si Speaker niyan. So, walang problema.
Sir, yung pulso lang, sir, ng mga kasamahan niyo sa Senado, yung 3/4 vote, sir, coming from the Senate President, kayo po'y confident na makukuha niyo yun kung economic provisions lang yung gagalawin sa Constitution?
As far as the people that I've spoken to, I believe makakuha tayo ng 3/4 vote. Yung mga kausap natin, yung 13, plus yung mga kasama namin nung the day before, mga tumawag sa akin, parang makakuha po tayo ng 3/4 vote. Limited to only economic provisions, particularly these few that I had mentioned already.
Sorry, SP, tama ba? You were made aware of this People's Initiative just this year?
Nalaman mo ko lang last Friday.
Yeah, pero ba't di ba may timeline na binigay si Senator Amy Marcos?
Alam mo, to answer your question, nabulaga ako.
Okay.
Last Friday ko lang nalaman. Not this Friday, the Friday, what day was that? Friday? 6? 5 or 6?
Okay.
January 5 ko lang nalaman. I was in Cagayan de Oro doing some work there. And nakuha ko yung litrato, pinadala sa all members page ni Senator Chis Escudero. Yung litrato ng People's Initiative question.
Okay.
Doon ako nabulaga.
Pero sir, why did the BICAM approve nearly 12 billion increase sa COMELEC budget under plebiscite planned this year when in fact wala naman tayong gaanong scheduled plebiscite for this year?
Well, we were told that that budget was for purchasing of machines. Kasi wala na yung Smartmatic, di ba? Disqualified sila. So, akala po natin para sa election ng 2025 yun. Kasi kailangan mo ng at least 1 year before bago mo bilhin yung machines. Di ba? Kasi election na eh. Pagdating ng 2025, we only have 4 months to go before elections. So we thought it was the preparations for the 2025 elections. But remember that it didn't come from us. Hindi galing wala sa NEP yan, wala sa GAA. Hindi kami nagpo-post yan. So that's supposed to be for elections of 2025. And I believe sa Chairman George Garcia naglabas na ng pahayag today or kahapon or today, rather this morning, nagagamitin daw nila yan for the 2025 elections. Yes, guys.
Can I just clarify lang, sir?
categorical order from the President to stop the PI? Kasi apparently ang discussion among congressional leaders lang. How about yung mga private group na gusto pa rin mag-initiate ng ganong PI?
The President maintained his position that this is divisive. The President maintained that position. I hope that the people who are listening would be able to get that the body language of the President. On stopping the move, well, I don't want to. Let's ask the Speaker and his lieutenants in the House of Representatives, all those who have spoken out, because according to the Speaker in that meeting, moot and academic na daw yung PI kung pag-usapan daw natin dito sa Senado itong economic provisions. Kung totoo lang economic provisions lang gusto nila, only economic provisions. So, sabi ni Speaker, moot and academic daw yun. But I'd rather that you ask him what his opinion after we file this today and after the reading of my statement.
Even sir, sa side ni Speaker, walang categorical or commitment na, okay, we'll stop or without admissions.
Well, sabi nga niya, it's moot and academic once this is filed and discussed. So, I don't know, I don't want to add information that I have no control of. So, best na sa grupo na lang ninyo sila tanungin.
Sir,
Pero, I just want to put on record, they can always call up the Speaker, they can always call up Sandro, Congressman Sandro Marcos was there in the meeting, they can always call up SAP Secretary Anton Lagdameo, who was also there in the meeting.
Sir, paano magkakaroon ng ganong commitment about the PI si Speaker when the content of the PI is actually to dilute the voting powers of the Senate? So paano yung relationship ng dalawa, ng dalawang moves, if that's the case?
Anuhin mo na lang si Speaker, Chef. I don't want to guess the relationship. I don't want to guess where the orders are coming from. As far as I'm concerned, I'd like to avoid a constitutional crisis between the House and the Senate because it will paralyze our legislation. It will just paralyze all legislation pending. Sayang naman. Sayang naman ang mga mahalagang panukala para sa ating taong bayan.
Sir, sorry, konting explanation lang.
Sure.
Bakit po tingin niyo magiging constitutional crisis pag pinush yung PI?
Because obviously we will fight. We will fight. The Senate will fight tooth and nail not to allow that. It will be a very divisive campaign. Obviously, including all the way to the Supreme Court. We're ready to file a petition all the way to the campaigning of this referendum, all the way to of course, it starts with the COMELEC. We will file opposition to the COMELEC. Of course, we will file a petition to the Supreme Court and fight it tooth and nail. But if there's a compromise such as this, and they decide to just back out because according to the Speaker, it's moot and academic, then we welcome that as well. That will be a more peaceful, more productive, more proactive way of dealing with the economic provisions without having to na hindi makakapo ng Senado at dahil sa pagkapo ng Senado kung ano-ano pang pwedeng ilabas sa ganung klaseng initiative. So, I think this is the win-win solution that we're all looking for.
Sir, sorry po. May categorical na sagot, may categorical na agreement mula kay Speaker na pag natapos nyo dito yung version ng inamend na Constitution, kaya adapt na lang nila. Pumayag siya doon, sir.
Sarap ng Pangulo, sabi niya, okay. I don't know what he'll say. Best is you ask him, but best is you ask him. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
But in front of PBBM, he said okay sa adoption, sir.
I'd rather that you ask him. I don't want to put words in his mouth and he'll deny saying that. Siguro tanungin niyo na lang siya. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Pero we were happy, yung kalalabasan ng meeting na yan, happy po yung side ng Senado.
Sir, tama po ba? You will meet again with Speaker after this? Or
Well, he's waiting for my statement. So I've given my statement today. Hinihintay niya lang yung statement ko bago siya mag-statement. So I'll wait for his statement as well.
Sir, balik tayo konti. Yung meeting was in with the President and the Speaker?
The second meeting was initiated by the President. Sabi niya, magkita tayo Thursday.
Yung first meeting, ikaw?
Yung first meeting ako, kasi I wanted to seek guidance. Ano ba ito? Ano ba tong PI na to?
And what was yung content, yung pwede lang namin alamin, nung first meeting that he...
Yung tayo-tayo lang? Yung hindi tayo live?
Oo. yung content ng first meeting that the President see the need to...
No, he was concerned. He was concerned. On the first meeting we had, concerned si Pangulo kung saan patungo ito. Concerned siya. But I can't give the details kasi it was privileged information. Nandun kami sa bahay niya. So,
Second, tinawag din para mas madami.
sabi niya para maayos na natin itong gusot na ito. In fairness to the President, he's trying to find ways na hindi madagdagan ang gusot ng pagtakbo ng ating pamahalaan para sa ating taong bayan. So, he was just trying to find ways na hindi magkakagulo. Imagine if everyday toxic masyado yung mga salita namin sa news, mga tao. Of course, it will look like a divided nation. If every day in the news, nagsisigawan, nagmumuran po tayo dyan. So, even investors would be afraid to come in.
Sir,
Wait, si ano muna? Nauna po si Marlon. Okay.
SP, previously you were very adamant in your position against Chacha. Anong deal changer this time?
I was never adamant. But let's put this on the record. I've said it many times. There is a need to amend certain provisions of the Constitution. But I've said that possibly now is not the time because of the important matters at hand. But after meeting the economic teams and the business groups they're saying that their biggest concern nga is dahil sa kaso sa Supreme Court na hindi pa natatapos with finality, natatakot pa rin sila pumasok dito. Bigyan ko kayo ng halimbawa. You're a company who wants to deal with telecommunications. Under the PSA, pwede na po yan 100% owned. Pumasok sila dito, bilhin nila ang PLDT for example. Yung mga magagaling na kumpanya, let's say yung sa Japan, yung magandang company dyan, yung Docomo ba yan o ganun, pasok sila dito. And they give us 100% service. Happy lahat ng tao. They spend billions of dollars. Tapos sabihin ng Supreme Court, unconstitutional. You have to just have only 40%. You have to sell 60%. Eh, sino ba naman hindi masisiraan ng ulo dyan? So, any businessman would not want to put up major infrastructure here and investments if that is the pending case, or there is a pending case in the Supreme Court.
SP, was the President's position against foreign land ownership made it more acceptable to you than Chacha?
Oo, kasi definitely kung nilagay natin yung land ownership dyan, pati tayo dito sa Senado, wala tayong makukuhan. Siguro, iilan lang ang papabor, baka dalawa lang, o baka wala. Wala pa akong nakakausap dito na pabor sila sa land ownership ng dayuhan. Kasi, alam mo naman sinong bibili lang nandyan. Kung hindi, yung ating mga kapitbahay na nang gustong manggulo dito, tapos yan ang mangyayari dyan. Tapos, yung ating mga kababayan, nangyayari na nga yan na yun Diba? Dahil sa mga pogo and all that na hindi na po ma-afford na ating mga kababayan, mga condominiums dito sa... tanungin nyo lang mga Senate staffers natin dito. Hindi na sila maka-arkila ng apartment dito sa area na to, sa Pasay, dahil sobrang mahal. Pupunta na, talagang abot na sila ng Cavite. Because of course, it's being rented by foreigners. So, I would suggest talaga na we do not include that in the amendments to the Constitution. That would be very difficult for everyone.
Sir, may pinag-usapan na po ba kayong timeline para dito, sir, sa review ng economic provisions? Like, may target date na ho ba? Kasi may sinasabi rin na possibly, dapat sa SONA ni Presidente, mai-report na niya ito.
Well, napakasimple lang naman ng amendments na to. I don't see any problem finishing it this quarter. Before the Holy Week break. I don't see any problem. Kasi tatatlo lang naman yung... Tapos napakasimple. It's not specific. It's specific. But we only put the amendment unless otherwise provided for by law. So gagawa pa kami ng batas. You understand? Kasi ito, babanggit ito. yung sa Public Services Act, para maging constitutional na po yung national patrimony and economy. That is under Section 11 of Article 12. Section 11, lalagyan lang namin ng linya unless otherwise provided for by law. Meron na tayong Public Services Act. That's the law. So that will now constitutionalize the Public Services Act.
Pero sir, can you do that without converting Congress into a constituent assembly, sir? Sir, kasi amendment din po yan sa Constitution, yung adding that phrase po na unless otherwise provided by
After
law.
discussing with several legal luminaries, it can be done. It's just a name. What's the Constituent Assembly? Our hearings and our voting here will just be, it's like a separate assembly. They have one there, we have one here. Does it say that we really have to meet?
So sir, ibig
Say
sabihin,
ba in the Constitution that we have to meet all together?
Pero
Hindi naman, di ba?
voting
Saan kami magmi-meet sa Club Filipino?
Pero ibig sabihin, sir, gagawa kayo ng batas saying na dadagdagan ng unless otherwise provided by law ang Constitution, sir?
Yes.
Yung ganung provisions?
Yes. We'll see it because we're filing this right now after our press conference.
sorry, with your respect po.
Oh, Marlon.
Kasi dun sa charter natin, very specific yung mode of modifying. Talaga nakalagay doon, con-as, or PI. By doing this, na parang ang dating sa amin, ganun lang kasimple. Di sana yung mga nagdaang administration, naisip din nila na ganito lang pala kasimple.
Pero I'll tell you, Marlon, guys. So what if we meet in one house? They will be discussing economic provisions. We will be discussing economic, magtatabi-tabi kami. We will vote separately, 3/4 vote, 18 votes. They'll vote also 3/4 vote, their vote. Then we come together and that's the agreed resolution. It's the same if they do it there and we do it here. What is the difference? What is the difference? Yung sigawan ng debate, di magdebate sila doon, magdebate kami dito. So it is the same. That is the Constitution does not say we have to meet all together.
So you don't have to declare yourself as meeting separately, being a constituent assembly, sir.
Well, it's schematics. We'll wait for the chairman of the subcommittee, Senator Angara, to decide how we will call it when we adopt this, or whenever we adopt this resolution.
So,
but it's the same. I don't understand. People are expecting us to meet in one place. Why? Dahil magsisigaw, magsusuntukan kami. Hindi naman, pwede naman namin gawin yan dito. Pwede nila gawin yan doon. What's important there is the 3/4 vote, voting separately. That is what's important because it's a bicameral form of government. Yan ang pinakamalaga dyan. Na boboto kami, 3/4. Boboto sila 3/4. Pag hindi po kami naka 3/4, wala nang usapin ng charter change. Ganun lang yun.
And sir, confident kayo, sir, na makukuha yung suporta ng 18 senators, sir, or more?
Depending on the amendments, dito sa amendments na ito, komportable po ako na makukuha natin ang boto nila.
Sir, yung timeline, sir, na sa zona ni Presidente, pwedeng batas na po yung...
Well, hindi pa kasi dadaan pa ng, well, depende sa plebisito, magkaka-plebisito pa yan. So, we have to ask the COMELEC if they have funds for the plebiscite. Magpa-plebiscite pa yan, my dear. Anything that we discuss here and we vote on will still go to the people. So, we'll have a plebiscite kung sasang-ayon ba sila dyan.
So sir, sorry sir ha. So ang step by step, sir, is subcommittee, of course yung approval ninyo, and then yung dadagdagan na unless otherwise provided by law, plebiscite, and then you'll write the laws, sir?
Yes. Hindi na kailangan. Sa Public Services Act, nandyan na yung batas eh.
Opo, pero sir, yung sa education.
Yes, education, magpa-file pa tayo ng bill.
After, sir, na
Babalik ulit tayo sa going back to the first step to filing a bill that will allow, let's say, foreign ownership for education in the country. Dadaan ulit sa ganyang klaseng proseso.
Ayan.
What can you say about this ongoing signature drive na sinasabi na involved na pera and some...
Bawal yun. Bawal yan. Any form of bribery, whether with government funds or private funds, bawal yan. And even I believe the COMELEC has said this, na kung mapatunayan nga na nagbigay ng pera, that's an illegal activity. So, bawal yun.
Sir, was
I mean, I
that
think we're all in agreement na bawal po siya.
So, naging concern din ba yun ni Presidente? So,
Ha?
sa meeting po ninyo, sir, naging concern din po niya yung report ng bayaran sa People's Initiative, sir?
Yes. Nagbangkit nga siya ng mga news agencies. Katulad nyo. Tulad mo. GMA. Ay, hindi ko na papagay. Lahat. Pinapanood niya. In fairness to the President, he watches the news. Ha?
Yes,
He
sir,
watches
because
the
we
news.
report, kasi ang
Oh,
report
TV5,
po namin, sir, yung na-report po namin kasi na may nagkakabayaran. Yun yung sinight, sir.
Oo. Sinight niya yun. Sinight niya yung nangyayari sa Bicol. Sinight niya yun. So, he's concerned. He's concerned.
SP.
Sir, ay, sorry. Sir,
Ladies first or ladies first?
Ako muna, lady. Sir, if and when it happens na kailangan nyo na nandun kayo sa scenario that you will file a petition before the COMELEC, you're going to use all these so-called bayaran, the payoff.
Well, I believe Senator Amy Marcos has filed a resolution on this issue. She's leading the Committee on Electoral Reform. So we can await her committee hearing and let's await her findings. I would like to wait for the resolution of that filed measure of the good senator from Ilocos Sur or Ilocos Norte, Senator Amy Marcos, and we'll wait for the outcome of that hearing before we can make a decision.
SP ba yung ginamit niyo pong words, seeking the guidance of the President and agreeing to what was discussed and said during that meeting? Is it not in effect giving up the independence of the Senate?
Oh, no naman. Well, first of all, alam mo naman, I personally am allied with the President, so I seek guidance on these particular divisive issues with him. He doesn't get involved with the dealings of the House and of the Senate. Never siya talagang nakikialam sa atin dito. But when it comes to these positions, for example, yung MUP, di ba? Nagkakaroon ng agam-agam at galit ang mga members of the armed forces and of course the retired members of the armed forces. We had to seek also the proposals and the I'd say the President's feelings on this particular issue kasi syempre executive siya eh. Kung nagkakagulo, di sila ang nagkakagulo dun. So I mean, it's normal to seek the guidance of the President on certain issues.
Sir?
Maintain the independence of
Of course, what we're trying to avoid is a constitutional crisis. Naalala ko kasi membro ako ng Kongreso noong 2004, 2005, mainit ang usapin ng charter change noon, nung panahon ni Speaker Joe De Venecia and Senate President Frank Drilon. I clearly remembered that because of that fight, hindi nag-uusap yung dalawa. Hindi talaga nag-uusap yung dalawa. Nang iinsultuhan sila sa TV at dahil dyan, apektado yung legislation. I know because naipit yung aking local legislation. Walang nailabas na local bills ko at halos lahat walang nailabas na local bills. We don't want that to happen, guys, because that's going to be bad for the country and for the people. I'm trying to avoid that. In my 23 years already political experience in governance, that's the last thing that you want to happen dahil ang kawawa dyan ang taong bayan.
Sir, COMELEC Chair Garcia said that they will be needing at least 13 billion pesos for the plebiscite doon sa ratification ng any provision of the Constitution. Do you think it is prudent for the government to spend such amount na in the end wala hong katiyakan na magkaroon ba ng ratification? And second, sabi po ng COMELEC parang additional burden na po sa kanila considering they are preparing for the 2025 midterm elections. Thank you po.
Well, sa economic provisions lang ito, partner Ham. I just want to limit it to the economic provisions. I think 12 or 13 billion for a plebiscite, pero makuha natin yung 1.1 trillion na pledges, parang cost-benefit niyan, mas mataas para sa atin. Di ba? Kung kung talagang papasok, kung maayos natin yung gusot dyan sa Supreme Court, particularly on the issue on Public Services Act with an amendment of the Constitution, at papasok yung 1.1 trillion pledges na binanggit ng DTI, highest in 56 years yung pledges na ito, ay sa tingin ko, makakabawi din tayo in terms of income for the country, and of course, hindi tayo dehado. So, that's my position on that particular issue. On the budget. So, pero yun nga, kung wala tayong budget, then we'll have to wait the preceding year for that. Di ba? We'll have to wait for the preceding year kung walang budget yung COMELEC. So, what's important is we do our job. I believe that or pwede na isabay sa national elections. Di ba sa elections ng United States, meron silang rider questions? Do you agree on gay marriages? Yes or no? Do you agree in legalization of marijuana? Yes or no? Di ba are you open for legal abortion? Yes or no? Yan yung sa US eh. So habang binoboto nila yung kanilang congressman, kanilang senator, may rider question doon, yun na yun. So it's a possibility na pwedeng isabay sa national elections din ito. So para walang gastos.
Sir,
yes, ma'am.
bakit po sa
Sharon?
tingin nyo gusto ng PIRMA or some other groups na madilute ang boto ng mga senators?
Your guess is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine. Siyempre, alam mo yung nakakatakot dyan is the entering the unknown, di ba? Siyempre kung tao ka, ayaw mo pumasok sa isang kwartong madilim. Kasi hindi nyo nakikita anong nangyayari, anong nasa likod nitong kadiliman na ito. It's jumping into the abyss. Yung mga tao natatakot tumalon doon sa dagat, sa gitna ng dagat, dahil hindi natin alam kung anong makikita natin doon sa ilalim ng dagat, di ba? So, it is the great unknown that the people are afraid of. That's why we are going to prevent that by coming up with these specific discussions on specific economic amendments. And para alam ng tao, ito lang pinag-uusapan natin. Wala, hindi kayo mabubulaga. At we will be transparent. So, mas maganda yun kaysa ikapon ang Senado, tapos yung isang grupo ay tatawag po ng isang assembleya, and then, maski na wala po kaming partisipasyon doon, to be honest, pwede nilang repasuhan ang buong konstitusyon, pati yung mode of government natin. Pwedeng palitan yung gobyerno natin, pwedeng palitan lahat. So, that is the unknown, the great unknown na natatakot po ang taong bayan dyan. Ayaw po ng taong bayan yan. Gusto nila malaman ano ba ang mga specific amendments para sa ganun, pwede nilang pag-aralan yung mga amendments yan kung yan ba ay mapapaganda ang ating pamahalaan o pamamalakay ng ating gobyerno. Pamamalakad ng ating gobyerno. Yan. Bisaya ako, kaya nahirapan. Mas guwapo namang bisdak, magbisaya na lang ko ni. Nalisod ko sa Tinagalog. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Pa yung yung dates of the meeting. So January 5, meeting with the President ng kanilang Senado.
No. January 5 ko nalaman ko na may ganung klaseng question sa PI. And then, shortly after Tuesday last week was what day? I met with the President on the 9th, kami ng dalawa. And then I met with the Speaker once again on the evening of the 9th to confirm the meeting with the President, all three of us on the 11th. Kaya hindi muna ako nagsalita because I wanted to see the total picture, ano bang kalalabasan nito. So I held my guns muna, tahimik muna ako until we found a solution to this coming problem. Now, if it is resolved, I do not know, the Speaker will have to answer that question.
Sir, yung meeting niyo ni Speaker, anong napag-usapan? Tinanong mo siya, sir, kung naman ganito at may people's initiative?
Medyo mainit ang usapin namin. It was a very colorful and vigorous discussion.
And paliwanag, sir, saan pa yung paliwanag ni Speaker sa inyo? Did he explain himself or?
Siya na lang kausapin nyo.
Napa-PI ka ba, SP?
Sir, terminology lang talaga. So magkakaroon kayo ng sariling con-as dito, tapos con-as din ang house. Hindi lang kayo mag-meet as one.
No need. We don't need to be. We don't need to. There's no specific instruction on the Constitution. We can meet separately for that.
Pero hindi na con-as ang tawag.
We'll ask Sani Angar to come up with a very acceptable name for it. Mas magaling yan sa pagdating sa terminology. Si Senator Angara.
Is Senator Padilla already aware na hindi siya ang mag-lead ng charter change?
Hindi ko pa siya nakakausap, pero ang problema kasi sa aking kaibigan na si Senator Padilla, he's focused more on the political Diba? He's focused more on the political. Pagka ganun, magkakagulo talaga dito. Hindi tayo uunsad. With due respect to my dear colleague, Senator Padilla. Kasi kung change of government ka agad, wala na talagang pag-usapan dito. Magkakagulo na. So, I'm appealing to him, I'll appeal to him that we'll allow a subcommittee on this purpose. If not, then we'll call for committee of the whole. If kung hindi pumayag si Senator Padilla, then we can come up with a committee on the whole and I'll ask Senator Angara to lead. But eventually, magko-committee on the whole din kami because we have to vote. We have to vote. That committee on the whole, we will have kasi ilan lang member ng committee on constitutional amendments So, definitely, ang mangyayari dyan, baka mag-request yung mga members na mag-committee on the whole. But whatever it may be, it's the Senator Angara, we asked Senator Angara to take the lead in this. And he gladly accepted.
Pagkapili kay Senator Angara ay kayo o si Pangulo ito nagsabi?
No. Ang members. We had, it was agreed upon Thursday night. Subcommittee on constitutional amendments on these particular economic provisions. So, chairman pa rin si Senator Padilla, of course, Robin Hood. But we request that after our Thursday meeting na we decided, importante, pati ako, I cannot, to be honest with you, usaping legal ito. Hindi naman ako batikang lawyer, hindi naman ako abogado. Kung sa Bisaya, murag abogado lang, yung parang abogado lang magsalita. Pero ang importante dyan, ang magpe-preside dito ay isang legal luminary that knows the impacts of this type of amendments to the other provisions of the Constitution and of course on how government is run. So it's important that we have a legal luminary heading that particular subcommittee.
Sir, tama ba? Posible pa lang magkaroon ng committee of the whole o committee of the whole na talaga led by Senator Angara?
What we discussed was a subcommittee muna. Para mag-umpisa na yung hearings on this issue. They will invite all sectors. We will also invite yung PIRMA. We'll also invite former constitutionalists, former members of the constitutional conventions and the constitutionalists. We'll invite all sectors. We'll invite the business sector para marinig din ninyo yung complaints ng business sector na hindi nga sila makakapasok ng investments hanggang hindi desisyonan ng Supreme Court itong issue ng PSA. So, yan po ang stumbling block na yun.
Sir, saan kailangan yung 3/4 na vote? Sa subcommittee o sa plenary na vote?
Plenary, 3/4 vote, plenary. Wala pa. I can't give you a target date. I'm saying that maybe we can finish all the debates or all the committee hearings in the next 2 months. But I don't want to preempt what the chairman, Senator Angara, would want to give us a target date. Baka, I think he will probably start this month.
SP, during your discussion, hindi po ba naging option na let's just wait for the Supreme Court to make a ruling? Or talagang ang tingin na ay chacha na?
Kasi we cannot wait. It's a separate branch of government. Hindi naman natin sila maudyok na pag-usapan ninyo ang PSA agad-agad. So, I don't want naman to be presumptuous to tell any one of the members of the Supreme Court to hurry this issue up. So we don't know. It can be between 1 year to 3 years from now. But at that time, nakabinbin lahat ng investments na ito. move forward with these particular economic provisions, I think it would be the best for the country. So we'll see.
So hindi
We'll
po
see.
nasama talaga sa option. Yung hintayin na lang muna yung
We're not allowed to, my secretary is here, he's a lawyer. We're not allowed to, how do you say this? Influence the court. We're not, right? I have lawyers here. 1, 2, 3. They're nodding at me. We're not allowed to even mention na bilisan nyo. Hindi pwede namin sabihin yung pagalitan. Baka ma-citing contempt ako.
hintayin lang na umaksyon yung Supreme Court before discussing yung charge.
But waiting could entail costs in a long period of time. And cost, when I say cost or loss, what you call the loss of possible revenue. Dahil kung maghintay tayong 3 taon, baka pumunta na sa Vietnam yung mga kumpanya na ito. Remember, guys, may karibal tayo dito sa Southeast Asia. Number 1 investment destination now is Vietnam. Even if we're all English speakers, wala na, hindi na hadlang sa kanila na hindi masyadong magaling mag-English ang Vietnamese. Doon na sila pumupunta. So, yan ang actual situation on the ground. Guys, si Manong naman, sige si Nifa.
Is it fair to say,
Manong.
Is it fair to say na yung Senate na napilitan kayong i-file itong resolution ito because of the pressure that was started because of that PI
Hindi naman napilitan. I would not say napilitan. We just saw the practicality of, because of the discussions that we had this last week, na hindi talaga umuunsad yung mga pledges dahil nga inihintay nila yung Supreme Court action na ng Public Services Act. So, matalino naman siguro mga senador, nung pinag-usapan natin yan, they made the suggestion, let's amend this particular provision sa Constitution para maging constitutional na ang Public Services Act. But kasi kung hindi, sayang naman po yung mga pledges na binanggit ng ating Pangulo at ng DTI sa ating bansa.
not just to appease yung mga nagpo-push na.
No, not at all. That's not how we feel. That's not our position.
Pero SP, pero SP prior to PI, wala namang usapan, di ba, na magpo-push or magpapasa ng ganitong resolution. Kahit na naka-central lang siya sa economic conditions. Kasi may pinay na rin naman si Senator Robin.
Political kasi yun eh. Medyo political kasi yung gusto ng ating kaibigan ni Senator Robin Hood na hindi talaga, hindi ko alam ilang boto makuha noon dun sa political. Talagang at this point in time, there's no need to rush any political amendments. It's not paralyzing the country, the situation now. So, no further comments on that issue. I'd rather that we focus on what's the task on hand.
Sir,
Thank you, guys.
sir, isa na lang. Sir, isa na lang, sir. Sir,
Viva Ravelo!
sir, isa na lang. Opo. Sir, ibang topic tayo para hindi mali si NG. Sir, sa NG, yung power outage, sir, sa Visayas.
Yes.
I'm sure na-monitor nyo din po yung hearing. So, sir, ano
Yes.
yung take ninyo doon? Kasi nagturuan, sabi rin na NGCP, hindi, sinunod lang nila yung mga protocol, power plant, sumunod din lang daw sila sa protocol. So, sir, what do you make of that?
Kasi unfortunately dahil sa problemang ito, naghahanap kami ng hindi ako naka-attend ng, because that was the lunch that we had in Polo Club. That was the lunch we had with the senators. Di ba nag-lunch ako ng hapon yun? So matagal po kami, yung iba umalis, pumunta sa hearing. I had to stay behind to come up with consensus with our other colleagues. So unfortunately, hindi po ako nakadinig sa mga explanation nila. But whatever it is, dapat may maparusahan dyan. Di ba? May maparusahan dyan. It's either the GENCO or the distributor or both. GENCO or the transmission or both. Because pangalawang beses na nangyari ito sa Panay. Ako may negosyo sa Panay. I have a business in Iloilo. Talagang may ice plant ako dun and everybody knows it's my salent. I have an ice plant in Iloilo. Without power, my ice plant becomes a water delivery service kasi syempre hindi mo maihelo yung ice mo. Tubig lang yun. Kaya ang laki din ng talo ko. Kaya kung sinong pwede magalit, kasama na ako dyan because my businesses were affected in Iloilo at the time. Now, dapat may managot. Tama yung sinabi na, we lost billions. We lost a lot of money in 3 days of non-operation. Kasi syempre, natunaw lahat ng ice namin. Wala akong mabentang ice sa mga malls, sa restaurants. So, definitely, speaking as a businessman and not as a politician, maraming naperwisyo dun sa 3 araw na yan. This is the second time. That's why I know. Kasi tumatawag sila sa akin. No, first time, tumawag sila sa akin, yung staff ko. Kaya, as a politician, as a public servant, dapat may managot dyan para hindi mangyari muli. Dahil napakalaki po ang talo ng the whole island of Panay. This is not just Iloilo City, but Iloilo Province, Antique, Aklan, and Guimaras. So, Capiz, naperwisyo sila dyan. So, nakakatakot isipin na kayang-kayang i-brown out ang isang buong region, or at least one part of the region, because of, what do you say, poor management or no safeguards in place. So, pangalawang beses na to eh. Okay pa siguro sa una. Yung unang kapalpakan ay kaya pang sigurong i-warning. Ang pangalawa, ano na yan? Mismanagement na yan. So, I am in favor of the government proposing stiff fines and penalties to both the GenCos and the Transmission Corporation. Kasi, logically, kung sabihin ng GenCo, and I'll just be quick para you can ask another question. The GenCos, kung mag-maintenance service yan, pag mag-maintenance shutdown, dapat yung transmission connected sa other grids para sa ganun, kumuha sila ng power sa ibang lugar. Kami sa Mindanao, okay, meron kaming surplus power. We have 1,200 megawatts of surplus power in Mindanao. Ibig po sabihin, pwede po natin ma-export yan sa Panay para hindi magka-brown out. Kung hindi naman handa yung transmission grid line ng national grid, wala din po tayong magagawa. Diba? So, I think they should look at the totality on the system check on why this was not prevented and also the interconnection of grids. Because it does not make sense why we have a surplus in Mindanao and we cannot deliver it to Panay. Sino may kasalanan nun? Dito transmission, kasi transmission lines yun eh, between grids. Hindi na. I leave it to the people on the ground kasi syempre may business. I believe may yung chamber, mga chambers yata magpa-file ng class suits. I believe in the ERC. I like the strong leadership of Attorney Mona Dimalanta. Let's wait for the decision of the ERC. Alam ko paparusahan nila eh. And I think the President also is very upset. Galit na galit si Presidente dyan sa issue na yan. Yes, it's possible one amendment that he wants to, of course in jest, no, but
Nabanggit ba, sir, ni Presidente yung pagpapareview sa franchise ng NGCP, sir? Kasi nasa Congress po ito.
Hindi niya binanggit yung review ng franchise ng NGCP. But if the franchise of NGCP is reviewed and it's brought up to the Senate, kasi that's considered like a local bill. It emanates from the House. And once it comes to the Senate, we will study. We will study the proposal of the House of Representatives on the review of the franchise of NGCP. But at this point in time, kailangan makabawi yung NGCP. Unang-una, they have to reinvest into the company and finish already the interconnection between Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. No excuses, matagal na yan eh. Ilang April na binanggit nila, tatapusin nila eh. I remember 2019, sabi nila April of 2019. Tapos later on, April of 2020. Tapos excuse ay pandemic. Dahil hindi sila makagalaw. After that, April of 2022. April of 2023. Ngayon, April now, ba itong 2024? Ano ba talaga? Tapusin na nila yun. There should be a final or an ultimatum on the date wherein they interconnect Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao grids. Para sa ganun, yung surplus ng Luzon at yung surplus ng Mindanao magamit sa Visayas pag may system checks, system maintenance ng mga GenCos. Alright, thank you very much, guys. Masarap yung pagkain ko para sa inyo. We will have, but we'll announce it on next week.
Pero napag-usapan daw po yung focus nung last week.
Yeah. And the statement.
We have resolution